Good afternoon. This is Debra V. Wilson. I'm on a bit of a walkabout, so I do apologize if you hear background noise. It is Tuesday, the 18th of June, 2024. So today I had to run an errand, and I started thinking about some of the work I have done in the past in London. I so love understanding how and why people perform self the way in which they do. And that is particularly around the ways in which people experience and understand what national security is, be it the general public or be it practitioners. It's always quite edifying for me to learn how people understand. Years ago, when I still lived in Chicago, I was on a visit to London. So when I was in Chicago for a time, I traveled to the UK 3 to 4 times a year. And whenever I was in the UK, I was typically in London, and I was always doing volunteer work in feminist spaces. My understanding of national security models is from the perspective of how people experience them. That includes how the state understands, from policy to how the practitioners work, which is difficult, it's impossible to talk to them, but then how the public understands that model. And then the bit that I do get from the state are documents that are available to the general public, utterances from the state. Those are very edifying. So it's not just, although the United Kingdom for many years was my sole focal point, it's not my only one. So years ago, I was in London and I attended an event with people from the Middle East. There was a man that I became aware of who might have been an intelligence officer from a Middle Eastern country. In any case, he did sit and talk with me. He, of course, denied that he was an intelligence officer, but nevertheless, we talked about how people understood what was safety, what was security. We talked for, quite some time. There was lots of food at the place, and I remember sitting at the same table, and there were a group of us, and he was leading the conversation. I was leading with the questions, but I remember the people, and the people were opining about how they understood national security, how people understand what is a threat, and then how people understand how to address that threat. In any case, by the time the meal finished, it was late, and I needed to get back to my hotel. And he offered to make sure I got back okay. It was nothing inappropriate, but I said, no, that's not a good idea. And the reason why it wasn't a good idea is because, as I mentioned before, the security service knew that I was doing the research that I was doing, and via counterterrorism police out of the Met, SO15, there were conditions. And so one of the conditions was, if I was doing this as an independent researcher, I better act like it, okay? And so, just for a lot, there was nothing personally, but I just thought that wasn't a good idea to ask this young man to get me back to my hotel. And I still remember what he said. You think I don't know where you're staying? He said, of course I know where you're staying. When I agreed to the interview, he had done his work. That's what he was saying. And then he said, my sister, I told you then and I'm telling you now, no harm will come to you. I just want to make sure you're okay. And I said, yes, I am okay. I will be okay getting back to my hotel. It's not that far from the tube station that I get off at. And I said, I'll be fine. And then he said, as long as you think you're going to be okay. I was okay. I got to my back to my hotel, and I never crossed my mind to ask him to take me back to my hotel, because exactly what I thought was going to happen happened when I got to the hotel. There was a Met officer, and as I'm walking through the door, he said, of the hotel, he said, "Madam, is Madam in for the evening?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Have a good evening, Madam." And I said, You as well, sir." So I finished the rest of the trip, and I head back to the U.S. I was on a British Airways flight from London to Chicago. I wasn't alone on the flight. Make of that what you will. Several weeks later, because I did have a career in Chicago as an accountant or an HR person, human resources, or sometimes both. And also I had to work again to save money to pay for the next trip. And when I went back to London, like I always did, to do research, an SO-15 officer, I had all these Schedule 7 stops, asked me about the previous trip and the gentleman that I had interviewed. I probably could have picked something less challenging to focus on, but I couldn't have picked anything more interesting. It has definitely at times been frightening. I'm 66 years old now. I, I'm more passionate than ever about my work. It's a very important interest for me, how and why people understand security the way in which they do. And conversely, how you understand security is how you understand threat as well. So those go hand in hand. And I love the work I'm doing. I've had the good fortune to go to 3 countries and be able to do the work. The UK, which is the bulk of my body of work, Canada, and a little bit for 3 months in Israel. Intelligence officers are expected to do a lot. They have a lot of power because they're given that power because of the immense responsibility they have. I also think because it's so significant what they do that there should be a space to research and look at how people understand the model. So my focus in all of this is, are the right policies in place? And so those policies include oversight of the practitioners. So this is just a quick video. Sorry, recording. It's not a video. You only see the street and possibly my feet or boots. I actually have boots on and it's June. It's ridiculous, I know. But that there's enough space there is enough space in at least 3 countries to question the national security model from the experience of a myriad of people, including people who just might be foreign intelligence operating in a country. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a fantastic, I think, interest to have in my 60s. Late 60s, I can't think of a better one. And I'm overjoyed that I have an academic outlet for my interest. I want to say now and continue to say, I understand the there's a limited bandwidth on any model, including a national security model. So I've been grateful to the practitioners in Canada, Alpha Order, Israel, and the United Kingdom for allowing me to find a space to do my work and always being respectful in terms of the oversight. And I understand that it was necessary and appropriate to have that oversight. All right, this is Debra V. Wilson, and that was my ramble for the day. Thank you.